I didn't want to steal your thunder. As I got a list. Okay, cool. Because I had a bunch of stuff, but I didn't want to take it if you were going to already talk about it.
Good evening, everybody. I will call our meeting to order. And I will call our regular city council meeting to order, being held at the Richfield Municipal Center of May 24th, 2022. And the first item is a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are all able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is the open forum. This is an opportunity for people to come and address the Richfield City Council. It's not an opportunity for discussion, but if people want to come and share anything with us, they have up to 3 minutes to do so. We ask them to come to the podium, share their name, give their contact information, and share their comments. So let's see here. I already shared all of that. So there's a couple different ways to engage in the open forum. People can do it via email if they want to, and they can do so and connect with our executive assistant, Kelly Wynn, at kwyn@richfieldmn.gov. And then those comments will be read at the council meeting later in the night. You can also call at 612-861-9711, and that is to leave your comments before the meeting. And then if you want to call in now, you can call in at 1-415-655-001, and then the webinar access code is 2464289-8547, and the password is 1234. So I will go to our executive assistant, Kelly Wynn, and see if anybody is here for the open forum on the line. And City Manager Rodriguez, Executive Assistant Wynn is, I'm not used to, I think I used the wrong COVID protocol for this, so I'm sorry. So now we're just, how are we patching folks in, do you know, for the phone? City Clerk Cindy.
Mayor, I can speak to that. So everything is going through this WebEx here, and
Okay.
I will be able to transfer people who do call in from an attendee to a panelist as I sit here. And so if people do call in, I'll be able to tell.
Thank you so much, City Clerk. So do we have anybody who's patching in?
Not currently.
Okay. Well, I will ask, are there any people here in person who want to speak at the open forum? And then I can ask one more time, is anyone here who would like to speak at the open forum? Okay, we will just wait for a little to see if anyone does dial in on the phone. Okay, it looks like we still don't have anyone here on the line, right? And are we able to see it from there on the TV? But it wouldn't show up on there. It does. Oh, okay, great. Thank you. All right, seeing as we don't have anybody here for the open forum, I will close the open forum and move to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes of the Joint City Council, Planning Commission, and HRA work session on May 10th, 2022, and the regular City Council meeting of May 10th, 2022.
Councilmember Supple, I'll move approval of those minutes.
Councilmember Troutman, second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes from council members? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The minutes have been approved. Now, we have two presentations with community members today. So the first one is the proclamation of the City of Richfield for Kelly Jo Etten Bayer. So I will read the proclamation. And is anybody here to receive the proclamation? Great, thank you. And I'll ask you to join me here. Thank you so much. And if you can introduce yourself, please.
My name is Gary Parker. Sorry. I am the president and CEO of Midwest Challenge Incorporated. We now do business as Life Rebuilders. Here in Richfield, we have 2 adult foster care facilities. One of them is a ladies' facility, one is a men's facility. The ladies' facility is the house we're asking you to honor. Kelly is someone that was I started as the president in 2007, was my first hire. She was a single mom who had fought her own addictions with alcohol and drugs, but also she fought an eating disorder. But she stepped up big time for us as a single mom, brought her child to work, wouldn't leave him at home. And we lost her during the pandemic. And because we're celebrating 50 years of doing what we do next year, and we started out helping women, the board of directors decided that we are going to dedicate the house here in Richfield, our women's house, in her honor. And I want to take a second to give thanks to Commissioner Deb Gattell from Hennepin County and Michael Ohama, who's her policy advisor. Michael shepherded us through this. And Michael is also a friend of Kelly's, so it all helped out. But I want to thank you for this opportunity. And by the way, we love being Richfield citizens with our houses. You guys are great to work with.
Thank you for sharing that information. So I will read the proclamation. Whereas in 2007, when Kelly Jo Etten Bayer was a single mother who voluntarily stepped in and stepped up to come alongside the residents of Life Rebuilders, and whereas Kelly helped countless men, women, and their families transition into a better life after addiction treatment and supported numerous families in reconciliation after incarceration, and whereas Kelly never backed down or accepted things as they were for men and women of Life Rebuilders, because she believed in their dignity and worked to make the world better for them. And whereas Kelly planned and attended residents' life's events, celebrations, and parties, and whereas Kelly worked on special events, websites, and vendor relations for Life Rebuilders, and whereas upon the passing of Kelly, the residents of Life Rebuilders will remember a champion, supporter, and sister who always had their back. And whereas Life Rebuilders will dedicate its women's program house in Richfield, Minnesota, in loving memory in honor of Kelly. Whereas the Richfield community celebrates Kelly Jo Etten Bayer's commitment and dedication to the lost and hurting. Now, therefore, I, Maria Regan Gonzalez, Mayor of the City of Richfield, do proclaim that the City of Richfield, Minnesota, and its citizens, that Kelly Jo Etten Bayer is hereby extended our support and thanks for her services and accomplishments, proclaimed this 24th day of May 2020. So thank you so much for this. We are very honored to have her influence and her spirit in everything she did. Hopefully you can hang that up. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Are there any comments from council members on that presentation? No? Okay, we have one more presentation, and that is to celebrate the Unsung Hero Award that was given to Ruth Evangelista, a longtime Richfield leader and community member. Ruth, if you want to come up, and if you want your family and community members to join you, they can join you too, if you'd like. So, great. Everybody who's here to celebrate Ruth. Excellent. Well, we are really excited to celebrate Ruth Evangelista and the work of La Red Latina de Educación Temprana. It was last year. Did you get the award? Was it last year or how many? Okay. last year, Ruth was selected, and it was a regional Unsung Heroes Award that celebrates people from across Minnesota and the Midwest who have done amazing work in their communities, but also maybe need to be more acknowledged for the impact that they've had in the community. So there was an award attached to it, and it's a very competitive process, and Ruth was one of 4 recipients to receive this. So I'd love to invite Ruth to talk a little bit about the work, and if the women of Lorette want to introduce themselves too. Thank you so much.
First, my name is Ruth Evangelista, and I live in Bloomington for the 20 years. All my work with the Latino community, I do it here in the city of Richfield. I want to say thank you to the city of Richfield for the recognition and I have received. I feel blessed to have a wonderful family work team, las mujeres de la Red Latina de Educación Temprana, and a special thank you to Partnership Academy School and friends who think about my well-being and rejoice in my achievement. Thanks City of Richfield for supporting us in these last 2 years for our food distribution, COVID-19 testing, COVID-19 vaccination site, and all the people to continue working with me, invest to the community. And I want to say, remember, if you have a healthy and educated community, everyone wins. Thank you so much for this recognition.
And then I wanted to share a couple more words, but did anyone from the group want to share anything? Lisa Hendricks from Partnership Academy.
Good evening. Good to see all of you again. Thank you. I met Ruth about 20 years ago. And I'd like to just say that we had an instant bond because we both had a heart to serve the community. And little did we know that we would cross paths and be doing some of this work that we're doing together. And so it's just an honor to partner with Ruth. The mission of our school has been enhanced greatly because of the work of Ruth and Lorette and the women that make up Lorette. And so we're just so fortunate and blessed to be a community partner with Lorette and with Ruth. And so she totally deserves this award. And I'm just honored to be here alongside of her tonight. So congratulations, Ruth.
And I just want to share my personal gratitude because it is these women who got me into this mess of running for elected office in the first place. I had just started my career in the early 2000s in the public health department in Bloomington Public Health, where Joan had worked for over 20 years. I barely even knew what public health was, and I was all of a sudden working in it. This is before we moved to Richfield. And Joan was just such a great mentor and supporter. I connected with Ruth and so many women from the community and built that relationship and learned what are the needs and the interests of our community. And childcare was front and center. And we applied for a tiny little grant of a few $1,000s, and we said, let's start doing free, culturally appropriate childcare trainings for our community members. Then we started with a couple, less than a dozen women. We passed the information word of mouth, and it just grew and grew and grew. And we saw a tremendous need. And this is only a little fraction of the leadership team of La Red Latina. And the work that this group that is completely 100% led by the community in creating solutions for their own families in our community has just greatly benefited the city of Richfield, the city of Bloomington, Minneapolis, all over the metro in countless ways, whether it was supporting and organizing community members to support affordable housing, Tobacco 21, community engagement, relationships with the police, you name it. you guys have really helped support community in owning their power and their leadership, and you've transformed the lives of our kids. You've been recognized for your work. There's nobody else nationally doing the work that you're doing. That's organizing over 300 family, friend, and neighbor childcare providers to transform their community and improve outcomes for their kids. And that is literally the reason why I'm in office, is because they taught me how to lead. And we worked together. We didn't know what we were doing in some ways. I mean, you guys have been doing this forever. But we figured this out. How do we work with the public health department? How do we get involved in our local government? And how do we work together? And here we are so many years later, and our community has been transformed. People are looking to you to do this in other parts of the state where childcare nationally is a crisis. Affordable housing is a crisis. And you guys have figured out how to address those issues from the place where the people are most impacted. So I'm personally thankful and forever indebted to this group of women because they believed in me to run for office. They supported me, and we have supported each other throughout the whole process. And I am who I am because of everybody here. And we are very fortunate to have such powerful leaders in our community being role models for people, especially when we need role models and people to own their leadership. La Red Latina is showing that. And it shows in their work. They have free trainings every single month, and they're packed. They can't find places to carry everybody, hold everybody, because sometimes there's 80 people in the sessions and there's 90 kids, and this is a regular thing. You don't see community engagement like that. So it's just very powerful. I could go on and on, but I just want to personally say I just respect and admire you so much, and I'm very thankful for how you've supported me. I love you guys. So I do want to read the proclamation for Ruth, and I want to thank Chris for working with the community to craft this. Thank you so much, Chris, for doing that. Whereas Ruth Evangelista knows the data that the benefits of early childhood education last into adulthood, and whereas Ruth knows the importance of access to quality early childhood and care and education for communities who traditionally have not received the support, and whereas Ruth founded La Red Latina de Educación Temprana, the Latino Early Child Care Provider Network, in 2013, with a simple vision for happy and educated children. And whereas Ruth recognized parents seeking care for their children often turn to their extended families and informal trusted networks due to the cost of childcare and a desire for care to be rooted in the cultures of the families. And whereas La Red provided support and education to the family, friend, and neighbor caregivers, including nutritional best practices, resources for children's mental health needs, culturally and linguistically appropriate trainings, and guidance for dealing with government policies. Whereas Ruth has been a tireless advocate for communities and FFN caregivers, believing that anyone with the right to support can be capable in providing quality childcare regardless of formal training. And whereas Ruth saw the impact COVID-19 was having on the mental health of not only the children but the parents and providers, she responded by creating resources for adults to better handle the anxiety they were experiencing. And whereas Ruth's advocacy doesn't just focus on children, Ruth helped stop mass displacement of over 1,000 primary low-income immigrant and BIPOC renters in Richfield during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Ruth has also been a powerful organizer for affordable housing policies. And whereas, because of her amazing work with the community, Ruth has received the Virginia McKnight Binger Unsung Hero Award. And whereas Ruth sees all her work as a part of the same body, she does this on behalf of La Red Latina and her community. And whereas the Richfield community celebrates Ruth, as she has not only brought pride to our city and our community, but love and support to the family of the Twin Cities and across Minnesota. Now, therefore, I, Maria Regan Gonzalez, Mayor of the City of Richfield, do proclaim that the City of Richfield, Minnesota, and its citizens, that Ruth Evangelista is hereby extended our support for her accomplishments and endless commitment to our community. Proclaim this 24th day of May 2022. Thank you so much. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Any comments on the agenda? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The agenda has been approved. The next item is the consent calendar, which is read by City Manager Katie Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further council action on these items is necessary. On tonight's consent calendar, item A, consider the approval of an agreement allowing Richfield Department of Public Safety to accept grant monies from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, JAG program. Item B, consider approval of a temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor license for the Steel Domain wrestling event scheduled to take place June 25th, 2022 at Fred Babcock, VFW number 5555, located at 6715 Lakeshore. Item C, consider the adoption of a resolution authorizing master partnership contract number 1050202 between the City of Richfield and Minnesota Department of Transportation. Item D, consider the acceptance of the quotation from Northland Recreation for $180,000 for the replacement of play equipment at Monroe and Sheridan Park, and authorize the Recreation Services Director to proceed with the project. Item E, consider approval of a construction cooperative agreement with Hennepin County for the County State Aid Highway number 52, Nicollet Avenue, safety improvement. And I submit all of these items for your consideration as part of the
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
The motion has been made to move the consent calendar and has been seconded. Any comments or questions on the consent calendar? Councilmember Supple.
I just wanted to say I was really happy to see the Department of Justice grant, because I think anytime we can get grant money to do studies and get better data so we can make better decisions is a good thing. And this one is going to help us do quantitative analysis of demographic disparities. And so I think it always helps in our decision making to have good quality data. So I'm pleased that we're having this.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
It's not very important, but just out of curiosity, why does the VFW get a temporary liquor license when they have a regular liquor license?
Councilmember Hayford O'Leary, the venue is going to be outside, so therefore they have to get a temporary liquor license to make sure that they can hold the venue outside of the inside of the establishment.
Okay, thanks.
Other comments or questions? Councilmember Whalen.
Just wanted to echo Councilmember Supple's comment. Was excited to see. I know we have we finished some pieces of the strategic planning, have not fully approved it yet, but there was pretty unanimous agreement that the getting better data on our equity goals is really a key piece of being able to move forward, and so was excited to see the Public Safety Department jumping on that, going for grant money to help advance that even before the full plan is approved. Also just wanted to name excitement around the new playgrounds. This is a a fun year, partially because we had some delays last year. So there's both these two that are new and the two that were delayed from last year. So families with kids who love playgrounds, there'll be plenty of new places to check out by the end of the year.
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. Other comments or questions? Councilmember Troutman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And in addition to what both my colleagues mentioned about the DOJ grant, I just want to lift up to our staff and to the community that grants don't happen by accident. They happen because of staff's competence and vision, and you have to be looking, and you have to be looking for grants that are in line with our values and where we're going, and you have to do the competent work to go out and get them. And so I just want to recognize that none of that's an accident. It's the fruit of good leadership and good execution on that front. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The consent calendar is approved. The next item goes to Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is to consider the second reading of an ordinance amending City Code Section 721 to add new subsection 721.24 related to facility requirements for bulk de-icer storage and approval of a resolution authorizing summary publication. So as background, the MPCA issued a new small municipal separate storm sewer systems general permit on November 16th of 2020. Richfield was issued coverage under this permit on October 1st of 2021 and must be compliant with new permit requirements within 12 months. Section 18.6 of the general permit requires cities to develop, implement, and enforce a regulatory mechanism which requires proper salt storage at commercial, institutional, and non-NPDES permitted industrial facilities. At minimum, this mechanism must require the following. Designated salt storage areas must be covered or indoors. Designated salt storage areas must be located on an impervious surface, and implementation of practices to reduce exposure when transferring material in designated salt storage areas for sweeping, diversions, or containment. The 2019 statewide chloride management plan states that winter maintenance activities are a primary source of chloride discharge into lakes, streams, wetlands, and groundwater. Salt and de-icers can enter the environment during storage, transport, and application. It only takes 1 teaspoon of salt to permanently pollute 5 gallons of water. Once contaminated with chloride, water becomes prohibitively difficult and expensive to treat for removal. This ordinance amendment will apply to all commercial, institutional, and non-NPDES permitted industrial facilities that temporarily or permanently maintain indoor or outdoor bulk de-icer storage, which it means greater than 2 tons in solid form or 400 gallons in liquid form. The ordinance requires indoor storage whenever possible, or for sure requires covered storage, requires storage to be on an impervious surface, requires best practices during transfer, sweeping, diversions, and containment, and requires solid and liquid de-icer materials to be stored separately from one another. I don't know if staff has anything to add on this item.
Councilmember Whalen,
Okay. Then I would make the motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance amending City Code Section 721 to add new Section 721.24 related to facility requirements for bulk de-icer storage and approve the resolution authorizing summary publication.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on this item?
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I know our Public Works Department has done a great job at limiting our salt in public ways, so it's good to see this, although it seems largely a compliance thing. It seems like a really useful requirement. I have occasionally seen property owners without this requirement in place, just like a huge pile of salt out in the parking lot, just getting washed into our storm sewers. So this seems really sensible, hopefully not much of a burden on property owners, and very common sense to reduce unnecessary leakage of this de-icer.
Thank you. Other comments? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved. The next item goes to Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Thank you. This item is to consider resolutions approving a modification to the tax increment redevelopment plans for the Lindale Gateway Interchange West, Urban Village, and City Bella tax increment financing districts, allowing 10% of the increment to be pooled for affordable housing purposes. The City and Housing and Redevelopment Authority have approved several tax increment financing, or TIF districts, over the years to facilitate housing and redevelopment activities in the city. State law allows the city and its HRA to pool up to 15% of the funds collected within a TIF district for eligible activities outside the district boundaries. The HRA's Housing and Redevelopment Fund utilizes these pooled funds for a variety of activities to alleviate blighted and substandard conditions. Several TIF districts contribute pooled funds to the HRF. However, there are 3 districts that are primary contributors: Lindale Gateway Interchange West, Urban Village, and City Bella. A review of the city's TIF districts indicate that there is opportunity to maximize the amount of tax increment that can be pooled and used outside of the district boundaries on redevelopment activities and affordable housing. State law allows HRAs to pool 10% of increment to be used toward affordable housing activities, and the HRA's financial consultants are recommending that this tax increment redevelopment plan be modified to enable the HRA to pool this 10% in these 3 TIF districts. Under the TIF law, the use of the 10% is limited to tax credit eligible projects. However, the state legislature passed a special law during the 2021 special session authorizing the city and HRA to transfer tax increment accumulated for housing purposes to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is administered by the HRA. Under the special legislation, the funds collected under the 10% allowance can be used for development, rehabilitation, and financing of affordable housing, both rental and homeownership. Transfers are allowed until December 31st, 2026. By approving the plan modification for each of the 3 districts and utilizing the special legislation, the HRA will be able to transfer the pooled TIF collected under the 10% modification to the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The modification authorizes the HRA to collect the 10%. The actual amount of funds transferred will be considered by the HRA as eligible projects and activities are identified and as increment is collected. Revenue and expenditures for the Housing Trust Fund are approved annually by the city and HRA. Any questions before I make the motion? Okay, I will move that we adopt these 3 resolutions approving a modification to the tax increment redevelopment plans for the Lindale Gateway Interchange West, Urban Village, and City Bella tax increment financing districts to allow pooling of 10% for affordable housing.
Second.
Go ahead. Did you second? Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Any comments or questions on this item? Councilmember Supple.
I just wanted to thank staff because I know for years they worked to lobby to get the law changed so we could have more flexibility so that we could use this funding for affordable housing. And that finally paid off when the law changed. And so now it's good to see that we can put it into effect. So this was very forward thinking of the staff, and I wanted to say thank you.
City Manager Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Supple. A lot of that work was led by Assistant Community Development Director Julie.
Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to make the same comment. Thank you as well. And then just since I know TIF is maybe one of the most recurring, hard to understand, hard to put in layman terms type of things, just to clarify that I am saying this correctly, that this is not extending the TIF district. It is not changing the total amounts. It is simply opening up new possibilities of how these can be used and reinvested in the community, and just want to make sure that I am accurate in describing it that way, or you can go ahead and correct me.
And I could stumble my way through it, but I'll have Assistant Director Urban.
Councilmember Whalen, you are correct. All of what you said. Yes, it's not extending any districts, and it's just making better use of the money we are able to collect.
Okay, thank you for confirming, and just again, this is one of those things that feels very in the weeds. So thank you for noticing that not only is this possible, but that it is possible if we had a change at the state legislature and then lobbying to help make that happen. And so I'm excited for, I think also part of strategic planning outcomes is the discussion of what we want to focus these funds toward. And I'm looking forward to that conversation and appreciate the HRA's input on that too. I know they take a primary role on the funding and the housing efforts.
Thank you. Other comments? Councilmember Supple?
While Assistant Director Urban is there, so it's my understanding that 2 of these 3 will be going offline, the TIF districts, in 2025. Is that correct? So we're kind of doing this in the nick of time?
Yes, that's correct. Interchange West, Lindell Gateway, and also Urban Village will go off. City Bella goes off, I believe, in 2030, but we can at least capitalize on it until that time, until 2026.
Thank you.
And I'll just reiterate, again, thank you to the staff. This change is huge for the community of Richfield. This change is just made for us, the city of Richfield, and I think there's a couple other cities that got this change, but hopefully this is something that can set a precedent for a statewide change at the state level so that all communities in Minnesota can have more flexibility with these funds. And our staff has just done an exceptional job over many years in keeping our community affordable and keeping more people in their homes here in Richfield, in our school districts, and making sure that we have a diversified pool of housing that everybody can afford and meets the needs of our community members. And they've been able to do that through being very creative and thinking about, how to leverage the assets we have here in Richfield and be nimble and respond to the needs of our community. And this is just one of many examples that have really resulted in very tangible outcomes of keeping this a place that everybody can call home. So thank you to Assistant Director Urban and our entire staff within the department. Other comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved. The next item goes to Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is to consider the approval of an agreement for prosecution services with the City of Richfield and HJ Law. The City of Richfield Department of Public Safety is required to have a licensed attorney to practice law in Minnesota to advise and represent the city in municipal prosecutions related to criminal and civil statutes and ordinances. And so I wanted to give our potentially new prosecutorial team an opportunity to come and introduce themselves. But I also just wanted to say this comes because our current prosecutor, Martin Costello, is retiring after 33 years of really faithful service to the city of Richfield. And he's been the prosecuting attorney here and the director. Prosecuting attorney, I'll just read a little bit of this before I say anything else. Prosecuting attorney Martin Costello advised the director of public safety and city manager that he was going to retire in July of 2022. And over an 8-month period, several firms were contacted and asked to submit proposals on prosecutorial services. And over this time frame, 2 firms submitted proposals, and the department met with them on several occasions, along with the city prosecutor, on a as-needed basis. This was a comprehensive process that required appropriate vetting of the firms to make sure they fit with the needs of the community and the Richfield Department of Public Safety. And the Director of Public Safety, in collaboration with the safety staff, proposed that HJ Law represent the city of Richfield and the Department of Public Safety for municipal prosecutions. So with that, is there anything else before we move? Does staff want to add?
No, they have a presentation, so I think we just welcome Rena, Joseph, and Greg Kelly.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Greg Hawley, and this is Katrina Joseph. and we are HJ Law. We had a presentation to provide on a PowerPoint slide, and if I can grab my computer real quick.
Was the presentation uploaded for us?
Yes. I believe it's online. My apologies for not getting it loaded for you.
No, that's okay.
We're fine.
If I may, I actually do have it available that we can just pop it over if you want me to go over and do that real quick.
Perfect. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I see it. Yep. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's good enough.
Here. All right. So my name is Greg Hawley, as I said before, and this is my partner, Katrina Joseph, and this is our presentation to make a bid to prosecute for the city of Richfield. And so the first thing I want to focus on is our duties as municipal prosecutors. And we prosecute everything from all misdemeanors, petty misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors. Another way of saying what we do and what we don't do is we don't prosecute felony cases. And we define those as how much time a person could actually serve in jail and or prison. Anything that's above a year would be considered a felony. Anything under that would be considered a misdemeanor. And that is where we would actually step in. And we prosecute all stages of misdemeanors from the beginning until the end, and actually doing post-conviction cases as well. And another big part of our duties is to draft complaints. Certain cases require complaints, which just simply is which is the charging document that'll have the charge and a very basic recitation of what the facts are to support the facts of that charge. We also prosecute ordinance violations, which I've heard a number of ordinance coming into effect. We also pursue firearms forfeitures, and we interact with law enforcement community. And as a prosecutor, our job is a very social job. We have to interact with lots of people in order to do our job effectively. And that means most of our time is spent working with judges clerks, court staff, defense attorneys, public defenders, pro se litigants, victims, as well as advocates for victims. So our job requires us to work with a lot of different people and to pay attention, and that's what we need to do our job effectively. And we started our firm back in 2017. I've been licensed to practice law since 2007, and we've both been prosecuting since the beginning of our career. I have a lot of experience. Together, we have 35 years of municipal prosecution experience. Myself, 15 years. Ms. Joseph has 20 years. And I started my practice. Let's see here. We have an enormous amount of experience prosecuting cases. And I can genuinely tell you that we've prosecuted tens of thousands of cases in our 30 years of practice. And this includes everything from the beginning, from charging documents, to motions to suppress, to court trials, to jury trials, to post-conviction motions as well, which typically would include expungements and motions to reopen up cases, things along those lines. And just let me tell you briefly about myself. As I said before, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I prosecuted for the city of Maplewood from 2007 until 2015 as an assistant prosecutor. I prosecuted with the city of New Brighton from 2015 to 2017, and then we joined our firms together, and now we prosecute for the city of Mounds View, Lauderdale, and Falcon Heights. And so we have a lot of experience doing this work. And I've been prosecuting with the city of Richfield since 2017, so I've had the opportunity to do this work. And at this point, I'm going to pass the conch over to Ms. Joseph.
A little bit about myself. I actually started my legal career as a student attorney working with Martin Costello. For the first 6 years of my career, I actually was an associate attorney for him. My first jury trial, my first appellate argument in Minnesota was Richfield cases. So I have a great familiarity. The chief and I have known each other for many years, back from when he was a lieutenant, doing forfeitures. We talked to each other, I think, almost daily. I've been prosecuting continually since I started working for Mr. Costello. As Greg mentioned, we currently now are the city attorneys, the city prosecutors for Mounds View, Falcon Heights, and Lauderdale, all in Ramsey County. So we have, I think between the two of us, we have probably 500 jury trials under our belts. So it's not a new thing having a lot of volume. I want to talk a little bit about our prosecution philosophy. So in the area of criminal justice, a prosecutor has essentially unbridled authority. We make charging decisions. I decide and Mr. Hawley decides who actually is going to come to court to see us, if there's probable cause to support criminal charges or not. And these are responsibilities that our office takes very seriously. One of the things that we place a big emphasis on, and Mr. Hawley referred to this, is working with our victim advocates. And that's not just in the area of domestic violence, but in the area of all types of crimes where there's a victim associated. I think anecdotally, somewhere between half and 2/3 of Richfield cases involve minority or people of color who are victims. And we want to make sure that they have a voice in the criminal justice procedure. So when they come to court, whether it's a domestic assault or a theft, or somebody has rear-ended their car, it runs the gamut. We want to make sure that they have input into the outcome of the cases, and that we're treating them with the courtesy and respect that any participant in the criminal justice system deserves. That extends not just to victims, but to defendants too. It's very easy in the position of a prosecutor to become jaded and become angry. When I was a student attorney, I actually had a prosecutor for a different city tell me that he didn't care if God himself had witnessed my client doing something good. It wasn't good enough for him. So we take those things forward with us in our legal career. One of the things that is very important is to represent the values of this city. Every jurisdiction, every city that we represent and have represented in the past has different priorities. That is just how it is. One of our current contracts has a significant issue with narcotics in their community. And that is what the city council and the police department has given us direction that we are to pay the most attention to. Not that we're not doing the rest of our job, but they want us to invest resources into those types of crimes in the community because it has a negative impact. Another community has serious issues with livability concerns, things like ordinance violations, loud noise. So each of our cities, and Richfield by extension, should we get the contract, we will be meeting with the city manager, with the police chief, with any members of the city council who'd like to sit down with us to talk about what those priorities are for the city of Richfield, so that we're responsive to the needs of this community. The last thing that we want to touch on is training for the police department. This is the criminal justice law as a whole, both in terms of the statutes that they're charged with enforcing, as well as case law, are ever evolving. Every year we get something new that's changed. And part of our responsibility is to make sure that they have the knowledge and the tools to do their jobs effectively, because we don't want a police officer violating the law when they stop someone's car. We don't want a police officer to not have the training to write a proper report or things like that. So part of our job is on the front end to be proactive with our law enforcement agencies to make sure that they have the tools they need to do their job and to do it well. So with that, are there any questions from the council?
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Troutman? Nope.
Thank you for that presentation, and also thank you for taking the time to talk about your values and your philosophy a lot. I think that's, as we go through a generational change here, it's nice to know the connections. For folks that don't know at home, Martin Costello, our current prosecutor, literally wrote the book on misdemeanors in Minnesota. He wrote the LexisNexis book that gets updated every year, and I know some of the considerations in going with your firm as opposed to other firms is that you are a smaller firm that can work with us. Compliments on having a legal services agreement that's less than 4 pages too. But to be able to do things like officer training and build the capacity of the city is really important, and taking the time to be acquainted with our values is also really important. Safety is important. Also, considering the collateral consequences of prosecution, the ability to prosecute something efficiently adds a lot, that somebody knows there's going to be accountability quickly is helpful, but to all the consequences that keep people from getting jobs and houses and moving forward with their lives. And in some cases, even with misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, people can lose access to education. You can't get college loans, depending on the judgments that you have the power to make. And so as you get to know us and you get to know our values, all of us want to be safe, and we rely on you for that. But we all, and I think you'll hear from our council, and I hope they speak up and even share a little bit now, how important those values are to say, as we evolve as a community, we really want to make sure that this is a community for everybody.
Well, and I think I can say that Mr. Hawley and I make a commitment to you as council members and to the city as a whole that we will listen to the concerns that you have, and to the best of our ability, we'll respond to those. You're absolutely correct about collateral consequences. There can be very significant consequences to criminal convictions, both in Minnesota and elsewhere. And that is certainly something that we consider when we make plea offers. It may not necessarily carry the day, but it is something that we consider. We think that that's part of the responsibility we have to the individual that we're prosecuting, is to make those judgments and to consider those factors.
Other comments or questions? Councilmember Whalen.
I would, thank you, Councilmember Troutman. I would echo that and say that personally, I know less about specifically how your role fits within the full justice system. I don't have the legal degree of my colleague, but just overall, we as a council have stated time and time again that equity is one of our biggest concerns, and I know that the criminal justice system, I would love to think and hope that it's true that it's been decades since the individual actors in it are intentionally being racist, but to this day, those racial disparities persist. And so hope that whatever piece of that you can impact, that would continue to be a focus, and certainly the options like diversion, expungement that we had been talking with Prosecutor Costello about, that would continue and hopefully even improve or expand as appropriate. But yeah, just knowing that when nearly every step of our criminal justice system disproportionately impacts poor people and people of color, that those collateral consequences follow them as well. And so just would echo that and add on to that. And I would be curious now, I know that's obviously a huge topic, but if you have some initial thoughts you want to share about how you weave that into your work.
So I'll start with diversion. So diversion is pretty common in things like theft cases. What I can tell you is that right now the diversion program in Hennepin County is run by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, and it is in my experience, a rather limited program. If the county is, or the city is interested, there are alternative programs that we can discuss and pursue. There is cost associated with them, either to the offender or to the city, someone's going to pay the bill for that. But there are those alternatives out there to make what would hopefully be a more effective diversion program for individuals that commit crimes in the city of Richfield. In terms of expungements, the Attorney General's office and the county both have a significant number of resources committed to that. I can tell you that over the last year, I've probably responded to in the neighborhood of 30 expungement requests in my jurisdictions, and I have objected to 3 of them. One was an indecent exposure case in front of a minor, and 2 were domestic assault convictions. Both of those, or all 3 of those convictions had happened within the prior 3 years. So in reviewing the cases, in reviewing the facts, and in reviewing the history of the individual, I didn't think as a prosecutor it was appropriate to agree to expungement. But the remaining cases, I didn't have an objection to expungement. So again, it's an exercise of prosecutorial discretion in that, but we do take expungement requests seriously. We do review them, and we don't sit here, at our desks saying, no, you're convicted of a crime, you will forever bear that scarlet letter.
Are there comments or questions from council? Councilmember Supple?
I was wondering if you'd say something about, you said you worked with the victims advocates, and I know in cases especially like of domestic abuse, and that's so important. Can you speak more to that?
Absolutely. So in Ramsey County, we work with Tubman Family Alliance. Here in Hennepin County, Richfield's advocates are through Cornerstone. And they provide what I can only describe as an excellent source of support for crime victims, victims of domestic violence. So essentially what happens is that the victim advocate is the intermediary between us as prosecutors and the criminal justice system as a whole and the crime victims themselves. If you don't have experience with the criminal justice system, if you don't have experience with the court system, it is a big, scary monolith. You don't know what the process is. You don't understand how it works. I was speaking to a victim on the phone this afternoon who told me, well, why can't you just say that he's guilty and be done with it? That's not how the system works. And explaining that to the average person on the street is difficult. And so the advocate helps fill in the gaps and provide additional support. They also provide resources. So if somebody needs access to a shelter, things like that. And, I can say, is it May? May is her name. She works really closely with Mr. Hawley and I, and we take the input of the victims very seriously. We want to make sure that they have a voice in the process, even if that voice is, I don't want anything bad to happen to this offender. We take that input very seriously. Because at the end of the day, we know, statistically, we know that most victims of domestic violence are assaulted multiple times and suffer injuries multiple times before they actually leave their abuser. And if we as prosecutors are doing things like issuing arrest warrants for them when they decide they don't want to come to court, putting them in jail, or otherwise adding to the trauma of the situation, that makes them less likely to participate in the process moving forward. And as prosecutors, that's the last thing we want to have happen. We want them to pick up the phone and call 911 and get help when they need help. And we want them to have faith that when they come and see Mr. Hawley or I in court, that they're going to be heard and we're going to take them seriously.
Thank you.
Councilmember Troutman?
One last comment. I just wanted to thank you for how you framed your victim advocacy in recognizing that the majority, and in doing the homework to understand that the majority of the people that are victims of crimes disproportionately are people of color, and that that's a really important story that we should be aware of. And as important as Cornerstone is for victims of domestic violence, we are not a huge staff, and so we don't have victims advocates in a lot of other crimes, and so you are our victims advocates. And so your cultural competency and your posture towards community is really, really critical. So I just wanted to thank you for acknowledging that. And then I also two personal plugs. As you think about our fees, and as you talk, I'm so appreciative that you talked about restorative justice and how we can expand that and what we need to think about to do that. When we look at our fees, I don't know how statutorily limited we are, but looking at means testing fees and how they affect disproportionately affect different people. When you can trade money for justice, people with more money get more justice, or money for consequences, people with more money get less consequences. And there's something structurally unfair. And in fact, Martin Costello in our last work session said our system is not fair to people of color. It's a huge problem, and we have to fight it. Those are his words. And so I think those are words well taken. The last thing, I'll just share this, and folks have heard me talk about this before, but we have yet to prosecute a wage theft crime in Hennepin County, and a lot of times it gets focused on the larger felonies that are over $1,000. But for every server and every worker that gets $500, $800 taken from their check, I would just be so delighted if we had a prosecutor that said, when employers steal from workers after they've traded their labor for their work, it's a crime. And they'd have some fear of accountability. So I'll just put that out there for what it's worth.
Well, for what it's worth, I think the statute's very clear. If we have sufficient evidence and we have people that are going to come forward and are willing to come to court if they need to, we will do our job.
That's great. You hear that, wage thieves? Thank you. So with that...
and Councilmember Troutman, I was just going to add some comments. So I just wanted to also add, since we have the opportunity as a council to share what our values are. So as you've heard, this council has been focused, our top priority has been advancing equity and embedding it in everything we do as a city, from our roles in the council to across the work of all of our departments for the past 6 years or more. That has been a focus of our councils. And then looking at what does that look like in your roles, but then how are we communicating and working across our different lanes to say, is there information that can be helpful to the policymakers that you are receiving on your end that can be helpful to us in our consideration and advancement of equity? And how do we maintain a relationship with you so that we can connect community members to you so that you are building that trust? And then lastly, I'll say something that you've even seen in this council meeting today is we pride ourselves on being very nimble and entrepreneurial-like in terms of looking at the issues in our community and coming up with ideas that are a fit for the community of Richfield. Our staff has done an exceptional job in the programs and services. So just thinking about how might you use this partnership with the city of Richfield to create, creative solutions to advance equity within your role, which is such an important role to be doing that. How do you work with our staff, with our council, with our community? That's why we're up here. We do this because we love to impact our community for the better with our neighbors. We don't have a big clunky, super slow government institution with all these layers. We really pride ourselves in being nimble and creative, and that's what makes Richfield a great place to live and to work and to lead in. So some of those values you've already seen, you've heard, but I just want to let you know that those are some of the core values that we have here on the council and in our community to serve our community members. So,
if I can just respond, what I would say in terms of our accessibility, it is in our proposed contract, but just to make clear, we are going to be here at the city in the offices at least 3 half days a week. So we will be accessible to you, to the police department, to city staff, whoever may need to talk to us about any given issue. So we will be around, we will be available, and as I said, we want to hear, you're the elected representatives. People put their faith and trust in you. You represent the community. So when you speak, we listen.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember Truman.
Well, thank you. Well, with that, I would move we approve the contract agreement for prosecution services with HJ Law for the City of Richfield Department of Public Safety.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any other comments or questions on the item? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We look forward to working with the city.
Same here. Thank you.
Welcome.
The next item is the city manager's report with City Manager Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a short COVID report. As you all are aware, cases are continuing to climb. We're not seeing any steep increases, and we're not seeing the same amount of hospitalization death climbing. So cases are more mild in general, and public health is hoping that the higher levels of vaccinations and the fact that folks have gotten COVID and have immunity because of that is going to help keep this a fairly moderate, not spike, but so we're not considering any additional mitigations at this time. Just a reminder, though, that for those who are 50 and over and have compromised immune systems, public health is recommending that you get your second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the city manager's report? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I was just wondering, from last meeting, we received an open forum comment from someone who had concerns about how the noise ordinance was being enforced. Was there a follow-up with that, gentleman?
I did, yes, we did. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We followed up direct.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions on the city manager's report? Okay, claims and payroll is next.
Councilmember Troutman, I would move claims and payroll.
I'll second.
Thank you. The motion has been made for claims and payroll to move claims and payroll and seconded. Comments on claims and payroll? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Claims and payroll has been approved. The next item is hats off to Hometown Hits. I'll just go from left to right. Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. Two items. One, want to encourage people, the farmers market outdoors is now running Saturdays at Veterans Park. Had some delicious banana chocolate chip bread from there myself this past weekend. And then secondly, wanted to lift up, you can listen to the full recording, see the full materials, but our work session prior to this was focused on the emerald ash borer prevention or remediation grant that the city received. Would encourage anyone who has ash trees on their property to get them checked out. If you have not been paying attention to it, unfortunately, there's a pretty high chance they might be sick with these bugs that kill them. So just would encourage folks to look into that if you haven't before and reach out to our city forestry department if you have questions.
Councilmember Supple.
Thank you. On a similar note, I was fortunate to be at Taft Park this past Thursday with the Tree Trust, and they were working in partnership with American Forests and Travelers, and they planted 50 new trees at Taft Park. And I want to do a shout out to one of Richfield's own, Gordon Hansen, because he's been involved with the Tree Trust, so he was one of the team leaders that was helping show all the volunteers how to plant the trees. So thank you to Gordon for that. Also, I want to do a thank you to the Public Works Department. Last week was the National Public Works Week, and so there was a lot of media attention to things that were going on, and they're kind of our unsung heroes. They take care of everything, and I just want to say thank you and hold them up. And then finally, coming up on this coming Saturday, May 28th, the City of Richfield is going to be partnering with Flags for Fort Snelling. And so there are a group of about 150 veterans that are going to be coming to the parking lot area by our ice arena on their motorcycles. And then after the ceremony, they're going to be escorted by Richfield Public Safety over to Fort Snelling to help in the effort to put a flag there to honor each of the people that is at Fort Snelling. So it's part of the Memorial Day weekend celebration. So if you're interested in cheering them on, they estimate that they'll probably be leaving the ice arena about 3:10. So if you want to come and cheer for them, and then they'll be going down 66th Street and heading east towards Fort Snelling. So thank you for everybody involved with that. And also the Honoring All Veterans Memorial Day ceremony is going to be at 2 p.m. on Monday, May 30th. And 39 new names are going to be engraved. So we would love to have you join us for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Supple. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I just wanted to compliment the participants and the staff who helped organize the citywide garage sale last weekend. I was hosting an aunt and uncle from out of town, and I know they got to check out one of my block. It was just a nice opportunity to see people connecting, in addition to clearing out some of the stuff they no longer want in their house. So I really like to see that event happening each year.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutman.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Richfield Foundation for the revival of the annual wine tasting after COVID. It was a great event. It takes a lot of work, and for folks that don't know what the Richfield Foundation is, they fund. If there's a great thing happening by a nonprofit in Richfield, the Richfield Foundation is probably contributing or supporting in some ways. They support dozens of great organizations, and they ran a great event, and it takes a lot of work to pull that off. And to Bill in our Richfield Liquor Department, we are losing our steady liquor leader for a generation and a half here in Richfield. So we're grateful for. He never brought the free samples. We always hoped he would to our directors meetings, but he's a great leader, and we'll surely miss him and wish him all the best in the next chapter of his life.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutman. I was going to the Richfield Foundation event, and thank you to all the volunteers and the staff and all the community members who supported that. Two things. Last week in the morning, I think on Wednesday, I got to go out and do my first birding event ever. I've never gone birding, and I've always wanted to, with our Wood Lake Nature staff and it's called the Urban Birding Collective, based in the Twin Cities here, and we had a couple Richfield residents join that, but that was really fun. So thank you to our director at Wood Lake, Paul, who oversees Wood Lake Nature Center. Thank you to the community members who partnered to do that amazing event. I guess we got to see a couple birds that were rare, but it was so great. And it was crazy to see how some of the birders could say, look, there's a bird right there. And I literally, and others could not see it with their plain eye, but their eyes are trained and they can really see these tiny little birds that are really hard to see with your plain eye. So again, like one of my favorite places in the community, Wood Lake Nature Center, but thanks to the staff and the community for that event. And then also in this magazine, we have a feature of the community of Richfield. So this is a magazine, and it's the American Association of Architects. And they did a feature on Richfield, and the feature is about how we have been advancing equity in the city of Richfield through our built environment. So it's really cool. We did a photo shoot at Wood Lake Nature Center, but we talked about the years of work from becoming the first suburban bike-friendly community years ago, to the road diets, to the protected bike lanes, to improving and increasing access to nature in our parks. It's a really nice snapshot of what we're doing around equity, and sometimes we don't think about the built environment, but that is one of the most impactful ways that local government can actually make impacts in advancing equity, is through our decisions around affordable housing, around our infrastructure, around our roads, and how we build out the community. And simultaneously, they're also the most important contributors to individual and community health is our built environment and our behaviors and what we have access to. So it was really fun to do the article with them, but it was also a really nice feature of equity with a different spin focused on the built environment. So thanks to the association, and check it out if you can. So that's all I have, and I adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone.